Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth. I'm one of the educators at the Science Center. And today we are going to talk about some really crazy cool animals who can regrow parts of their body. So we have another educator, Emily, who's going to be at the Science Center showing us some awesome Science Center critters. And then we also have a special guest from Cornell, Carrie, who's going to be showing us some of the cool animals that she works on in her lab at Cornell. So I'm going to let Carrie introduce herself briefly.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carrie Adler, and I am a biologist at the Cornell Vet School, and my research focuses on animal regeneration, which we'll talk about a lot in the next few minutes.
All right, awesome. Oh, and yes, today is Vivian's birthday, so that's exciting. We'll celebrate with her. We're so glad you're here to celebrate with all of us on your birthday. That's awesome.
Okay, so first of all, I have a question for everyone. Just a really general question. Do you guys know, have you guys ever seen an animal that's regrowing its body parts? And can you tell me what kind of animals those are?
Worms.
What kind of worms?
I don't know. I've just seen worms.
Yeah. Like worms, like they're big worms or worms you find in the dirt or worms you find in the ocean or what?
I'm pretty sure they were earthworms.
Earthworms. Okay, yeah. So earthworms can definitely regenerate. Can anyone think of any other kind of animal that can grow back anything? Zappy?
Salamanders can grow back their tail.
Mm-hmm. Salamanders. Yep. Salamanders can grow back a tail, which is like a pretty big thing. It's a pretty big part of the body.
Trey and Karen have said in the chat that the shark. So what can grow back in a shark? I know something. So one of the things that sharks can grow back is their teeth, right? So if they lose a tooth, yeah, they grow back lots more teeth. So that's pretty cool. We can't do that, right? We can only do it once, right? If we lose our baby teeth and then we get one more tooth, but we can't grow back any more if we lose those teeth. So that's a cool thing that sharks can do. Awesome.
That's right. So lots of different animals that you see around the world are capable of regeneration. But the ones that we are interested in, basically no animals can regrow everything except for pretty simple animals that exist on our planet. And those are the animals that we study in our lab, and those are called flatworms. So flatworms are these little animals. If you zoom in on the flatworm cam, can everybody do that?
Yeah, remember if you go up on the flatworm cam,
These are the
in those
flatworms.
right hand corner, you can pin video, and then you'll see our flatworms.
So first I'll show you a ruler. Okay, so you can see between the 4 and the 5, that's 1 centimeter. And each individual line is a millimeter. Does everybody know how big a millimeter is? Tiny, right? Pretty tiny, like the size of a pencil, the width of a pencil head. So what you can see here are flatworms, and they are about 3 or 4 millimeters long, and you can see them just gliding around in this dish. Where did they go? Where did they go? They're all hiding. See them in the middle here. There they are. Now, do those look like worms that you guys have seen in the world, in the dirt? No, right. They're like squishy, and they're squishy and they're tiny and they look really, really simple, but actually they have all kinds of different They have all kinds of different organs, just like in our own bodies. They have eyes, they have brains, they have intestines that are used for digestion, they have skin and muscle. And you can take one of these worms and chop it into 100 pieces, and each one of those pieces is gonna grow back to be a whole animal. So it would be almost like if I chopped off the very tip of my finger, and that tip of my finger could grow back to be a whole animal, a whole me. Wouldn't that be cool? Okay, so in this next dish, I'm going to show you animals that are in the process of regenerating. These ones, you can see, let me zoom in a little bit on them. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Is it blurry? It's a little bit blurry. Can you see how they're a little bit, they're very fast. So I'm kind of chasing them around, but you can see that they have little white parts that are growing back, and that is where the tissue is regenerating. I hope you can see that. Can everybody see that?
It looks like Trey and Corinne have something they want to share.
Oh, great.
All right, you want to unmute and share with us? There we
Corinne
go.
has a picture to share.
Oh, Corinne has a picture to share. All right, what do we have a picture of?
Can I hold it at the snake is trying to get to his home, and then he saw a girl stuck in sticky goo, so he was trying to save the girl until something sucked up the girl, and it's stuck forever.
Oh, wow. All right, well, thank you for sharing. That's really cool.
Okay, so one thing I want to say about these animals is that you can find them all over the place. If you go and look in any stream, you can turn over a rock and you'll find all kinds of critters that live underneath. They're hiding under the rock and avoiding the light, and some of them will be baby insects and some of them will be flatworms, and anything that's pretty squishy is going to be a flatworm. And you can find these in Cascadilla Creek all the time, and they're dark and squishy.
Did you guys know that there were worms in the creek? Seeing some nods, some head shaking, some hands raised. So some people knew, but most people didn't know that there were flatworms, that there were worms in the creek. So anytime you've been in the creek, you've been hanging out with worms.
It's pretty cool. And then you can take them home in some creek water and chop them into pieces and watch them regrow. It looks
Pretty
like
crazy,
Trey has his hand up.
All right, Trey, do you have a question?
I got a picture.
Oh, another picture. All right, what do we got?
So there's a superhero that has superpowers, and there's a person that's falling. So the superhero tries to save the person by putting a trampoline at the bottom, so the person would fall on it. But then the superhero has another problem. Some people are stuck in sand,
Right. Well, it's interesting that you brought up superheroes, Trey, and superpowers, because these animals have superpowers, kind of, right? They can grow back parts of themselves, which is something that really is kind of crazy. It's almost like magic. All right, so I think we're gonna go look at some of the animals that we have at the Science Center too. Do you think worms are the only animals who can grow themselves back? See some nods and some head shaking. Well, I'm gonna turn it over to Emily at the Science Center, and she's gonna show us some of the other animals at the Science Center who can do some regeneration. They have the superpower too.
Hi everyone. So I'm talking now. Hopefully my audio is okay. If you want to pin my video, you'll be able to visit with some of our animal collection here at the Science Center. Right now we're looking at two of our Forbes Seastars from the touch tank. And I want us to do something together. So there's one up here. How many legs does this Seastar have?
You can hold up your
we've
hand
got
with the same number of
one. Yeah, so some people are holding up hands. I see Elizabeth has said 5. Sayla and Kai counted 5. I'm counting 5 too. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 arms on this particular Seastar. Most of our Seastars do have 5 arms. That's typical for a Forbes Seastar. Let's take a look at this one. How many does this one have? Yeah, we've only got 4 here. So this Seastar has lost a limb, but because Seastars also have some regenerative capacity, we are hopeful that this Seastar's limb will be able to grow back. I see a little nubby bit here, and I'm thinking that central disc is intact. That suggests to me that it might be able to regrow its arm. Unlike flatworms.
And Corinne, do you guys have a question? All right.
Corinne has one.
All right, what's your question?
What do sea stars feel like?
What do sea stars feel like? Has anyone
That's a
ever?
really good question.
Yeah, has anyone ever been to the Science Center and touched a sea star at our touch tank? Does anyone want to share with Corinne what it felt like? Vivian, I see your hand. Do you want to share what a sea star felt like?
It was really bumpy.
Oh, all right. Really
Yeah.
bumpy. You kind of see bumps on Emily's screen right now, right? So if you haven't found Emily Bell's screen yet, that's the one that has our sea stars on it. So if you find Emily Bell and pin that video, you can look at our sea star right now and you can kind of see those bumps that Vivian was talking about.
So that's a really good observation. It feels pretty lumpy and sandpapery. Seastars are part of a group of animals called echinoderms, which means spiny skin. And you can definitely feel why they're called that when you touch a seastar. Now, they're part of a different group of animals from flatworms. So their ability to regrow and regenerate tissue is a little bit less all or nothing. So they need to have their central disc intact in order to be able to regrow their arms. Right next to our touch tank, we have another exhibit with some amazing super-powered animals. Does anyone recognize these? These might feel a little bit less familiar.
Coral.
They look like
Anemone.
coral. These are actually anemones. So these guys, there's a clownfish in here. You can see in our clownfish tank here. and they live in the anemones. Anemones sting other animals, but clownfish are able to live in there. And so the anemones give them a lot of protection. So if you've seen Finding Nemo, you know that the clownfish live in that home that is an anemone. Now, anemones themselves are able to regenerate these little tentacle bits that come off of them. So those are the things they use to snatch food. So if they need to, they can regrow those. I saw they put protection and food about our clownfish in here, and that's absolutely right. They're able to be protected from prey. I think they clean themselves on the anemones as well. And our female's giving us a good show. When she lays her eggs, they're well protected by the anemones in here. We also have a male in here. Clownfish are really interesting. This is a different type of animal superpower, but they're able to switch their sex. So when the female lays eggs, the male guards the eggs more closely, and the female swims out into the waters around their nest. If something happens to her, because it's a little bit dangerous out there, the male will actually take on the role of the female. He'll become the female, and he will start patrolling around their nest. So those are fun fish, but anemones are the ones that can parts of their tissue do. So those are some of our simpler organisms that can regenerate. We're gonna go take a look now at some of our vertebrates, so some of the more complex organisms. I'm gonna turn off my camera so you don't get nauseous, because I need to walk over to our animal room, and I think there are maybe some questions while we do that.
Yeah, well, and Trey and Corinne were wondering about seahorses. And so we do have seahorses. You will you might see some seahorses in our animal room. But seahorses are not ones that can do much regeneration. We're not going to release our seahorses. They are going to stay with us at the Science Center. Does anybody else have any questions while we walk over to see some other animals in our animal room?
That's a really good question, Emmett. I don't actually know. Carrie, do you have a sense of how long it would take a sea star to regenerate?
I think it's about a month.
Okay, cool.
It's not particularly fast. Flatworms can grow back whole bodies in a week. So I think a month is a really long time.
Yeah. Well, and it's important to remember that we're looking at these more complex animals that can regenerate sometimes and some parts of their bodies, but nothing comes near flatworms, which can grow a whole new animal out of just a tiny piece of themselves. So we're gonna look now. I have two geckos. I'm going to focus in on their tails, because I would like you all to observe. Can you notice the difference between these two gecko tails?
All right, so if you unpinned Emily's video, you'd want to pin it again so you can zoom in and see these gecko tails.
Looks like the one on the left tail is smaller.
So you're looking at this tail over here? That one's smaller? Yeah, anything about the shape that's different?
It's more curved.
Yeah, this one's a little bit more curved, absolutely. This one goes into the nice point. These geckos are actually siblings. They're the same type of animal, but this one lost its tail when it was very young and has regrown that tissue. These are fat-tailed geckos, so they store a lot of fat and extra energy in their tails that they're able to use at times when they don't have access to a lot of food. But they can also drop their tails as a defense mechanism. Someone mentioned this in relation to salamanders, but this is something that a lot of lizards can do as well. So when they are threatened, they will drop their tail, it'll wiggle around, and hopefully whatever is trying to eat that gecko will just take a bite of the tail and leave the rest of the animal alone. Yeah, so we're seeing a different pattern because it regrew in a much stubbier way. So when these guys regrow their tails, they always look different than when they were first grown. Okay, so these are some more complex organisms that do have the capacity to regenerate. Trey, did you have a thought?
Yeah, Trey, you want to ask a question?
Yeah. Do geckos get released?
No, so you might have been at our trout release, and so you saw us release some of our animals that we've raised here at the Science Center. We only do that with native species and only under very special conditions. Because our reptiles are all bred in human care and our amphibians as well, they wouldn't survive very well in the wild. So it's important that we keep them here at the Science Center with us to learn from them.
Sayla and Kai have said that sea cucumbers can also grow things back. And that's because, yeah, they are closely related to sea stars, so they can do a lot of, regrowing just like the sea stars can.
The last animal we're going to visit here at the Science Center is one of our most remarkable regenerative organisms. These are our axolotls. You'll see that there's a brown one and a white one. This white one is albino, so it doesn't produce normal skin pigment, but it has the same superpower as all other axolotls, which is that they can regenerate lots of different parts of their body. Do these guys seem to you more related to geckos or flatworms? More similar.
Gecko. They look more like geckos.
Yeah, so these are pretty complex organisms. They're vertebrates. And so it's unusual for something that has this many different systems in its body to be able to regenerate. But axolotls can regenerate tails, limbs. They can even regenerate parts of their brains. And so they are super unique in the animal kingdom. And scientists also study and learn a lot from these guys. And I think Carrie has some comments on that. Unfortunately, axolotls are critically endangered because the lakes in Mexico that they are native to have become sort of polluted as cities spread out. So it's really important to keep axolotls in captivity so we can continue to learn from them and their species can survive. Carrie, do you have anything to add about axolotls?
Well, I think you covered what I wanted to say, but since we only have a few minutes left, we can talk about what is so remarkable about axolotls and why it's so important to study them. So axolotls are vertebrates, and they look small, but they have pretty big brains and they have spinal cords. Now, do you guys know what a spinal cord is? Can someone point to it? Somebody was saying something.
Doesn't it send like nerve information so you can move your limbs?
Mm-hmm. That's right. And where is it?
It's down the middle of your back.
Yeah. So what happens if you break it or injure it?
You can't move the parts below where you broke your back.
Yeah. So it doesn't repair itself. So the reason that axolotls are so cool is that they can grow back their whole spinal cord and recover all of that movement. And so what we hope to learn by studying these wacky animals is how they have these magical powers. How are they able to do what we want to do? And why can they do that? And how can we learn from their magical powers about how we can improve our own lives and recovery from injury?
Awesome, yeah. And I just tried to point out the vertebra on here. You can sort of see, especially on this albino one, there's this red line running down its back.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's about where its spine would be. And then that network goes and stretches to limbs and other parts of its body. Does anyone have final questions or comments or thoughts about regeneration? I'm going to go out into Cascadilla Creek and look for some planaria, I think, when I get a chance.
Do you know of any parts of our bodies as humans that we can regenerate? Because we can't regenerate our brains or our legs, and we don't have tails. But there are parts that we can regenerate. Do you guys know anything about that, Jacob and Jerome?
We can regenerate hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our hair grows back, absolutely. What else? Anybody else have an idea?
Skin.
Skin.
You can regenerate skin.
Olive said skin too. Yeah.
It doesn't always come back perfectly, right? Kind of like with the two geckos, right? The one that grew back, it was a little weird. Same thing can happen with our skin sometimes. You can get a scar. And yeah, we can grow back nails. How about, has anyone ever heard of anyone donating blood? Or has anyone ever had to give blood at the doctor? Now, do you think that you just have less blood in your body now?
No, you can regenerate blood.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we can regenerate. We can make more blood cells. So that's pretty cool. We can just make more of that.
And it comes from bone marrow.
Toenail?
Yeah, absolutely right.
Nails?
Yep. Nails, absolutely. We also regrow those. Yeah, even if has anyone ever lost a toenail altogether? I see a couple hands. I have too. And if you lose a toenail altogether, you can still grow back a new one. So that's pretty cool.
Another really cool part of the body that can regenerate is your liver, which is inside your body and is important for digestion and all kinds of other stuff. And you can lose almost 2/3 of it and it'll grow back mostly okay.
Pretty awesome. All right.
But other parts of your body, like your heart, just cannot do that. Heart, you're kind of, if you have an injury on your heart, it's pretty hard to recover.
And same with your brain, right? We want to always protect our brains, because if you have an injury to your brain, that's really tough to recover from. Mm-hmm. All right, does anyone have any last questions for our guest, Carrie? Let's see, Zappy?
Can you regenerate bones? Like, because you can fix your bones, but is that regenerating?
Yes. Yeah, when there's an injury in your bone, the bone cells they're basically kicked into a regenerative mode, and that's what drives the repair. But one thing that I also wanted to mention for all the kids here is that ability to regrow bone or skin or anything really is better when you're kids than when you're an adult. So if you're going to hurt yourself, now's the time to do it. I don't encourage that, and I don't want you to hurt yourself, but you'll recover better if you hurt yourself now rather than when you're my age.
Yeah, have any of you ever broken a bone? No, no one's broken a bone yet. All right. Well,
I haven't. It took forever to regenerate because of cold.
yep, it's true. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. And tomorrow we're going to be back here again at 10:30 for another activity. We're
Today's
going
my
to be
birthday.
doing, we're going to be exploring yeast. All right. So yeast is another thing that is actually a live animal or a live organism that you might not think about, but we have another guest who's going to be joining us tomorrow, and we're going to be exploring yeast. All right, so join us back here at 10:30 tomorrow. We hope to see you there. All right.
Today's my
Bye,
birthday.
everyone. Oh yes, happy birthday, Vivian.
Hey,
So glad you joined us. See you
thanks
all
for
tomorrow.
tuning in, you guys.